As technology continues to evolve, commercial service is no exception. We rely on service technicians to repair and maintain restaurants, schools, hospitals, and other commercial facilities because our working economy depends on it. So it's vital for service companies to stay ahead of the curve with the latest technology and tools to optimize their business operations. But while many other industries have embraced technology, the commercial food equipment repair industry has been left behind. And that's why we created Behind the Burner podcast, to shine a bright light on technology that has been hiding in the shadows. We're dedicated to discussing the hottest trends in software so that service repair businesses can be aware of the latest technology solutions that cover a wide range of topics that can benefit business operations. We bring in software executives with real-life experience to speak on new opportunities they see in technology and how those tools can pave the way for a brighter future in the service industry. And our very first guest is one that we have seen a lot of if you're in this industry, but it's for good reason, because his software is making a dent. The great Aaron Salow with XOI joins us today to talk all about the technician experience and the technology surrounding this beautiful industry. So grab a pen and paper, because you don't want to miss what this guy has to say. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Welcome to Behind the Burner, and enjoy this episode with Aaron Salow. Hello, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Behind the Burner. I'm Josh Zolan. You might have seen my show, Blue is the New White. You might not have seen it. If you haven't seen it, definitely see it. It's really good. But I am here with my good friend and business partner, colleague, Ray Bartolomucci with Repairs. And we have got a special podcast bursting onto the scene. Ray, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself before we introduce our awesome guest today?
Yes, thanks, Josh. My name is Raymond. I grew up in the restaurant industry, so I was born and raised in commercial kitchens, started as a dishwasher. I now run a technology company called Repairs. We are field service technology dedicated to the commercial kitchen repair industry. We're excited about bringing new technology into the future, and we're excited to be here and talk about cool stuff that's happening in the industry.
New technology into the future. I couldn't have said it better myself. But no, you know what? I mean, that's the whole point behind this podcast, and we're really excited to introduce it. We're going to have obviously a ton of guests in and around the industry, but really focused and talking all about what kind of technology we can use, how we can empower our technicians, and really how we can push this entire industry into the future together. So on the heels of that, we have our first guest, which is no stranger to a lot of you, I'm sure, but the CEO of XOI Technologies, Mr. Aaron Salow. Aaron, welcome to Behind the Burner, my friend.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, you know what? For those who don't know who you are, the off chance that there is somebody listening that says, who's Aaron Salow? What's your story, man?
Yeah. Born and raised in Michigan, in the bubble of working with your hands is something you should be proud of. And it's a bubble I think is a good kind of bubble. People grow up in bad kind of bubbles all the time. But what I found is that the real world, the outside world, I should say, was thought about a little bit differently. And so I went through my career, manufacturing, construction, field service, saw that skilled trades, massive problem, and Google Glass was going to solve it all. Naive and dumb enough to think that was the case when I started XOI right before I turned 30. And which you have to have, by the way. You got to be just dumb enough to be an entrepreneur, because it's a ridiculously hard endeavor.
That's the truth.
So started XOI on the heels of smart glasses, learned that was a bit too cute, but learning a really important thing, and that the job site was really underserved. The technician was really underserved. The assets were really unknown in terms of what was happening with equipment. And so as we pivoted to phones and tablets, really focused on generating value for the tech, the end customer, distribution, OEMs, and everyone that cares about what happens on a job site. So that's my background in a quick nutshell. I'm excited to talk to you guys today.
Yeah, likewise, man. So, I mean, how is it that you decided or landed on the skilled trades?
Yeah, well, I think the reality was that cold shock of the way I grew up, and everyone I loved and knew did these things. I thought that's what everyone did. My grandparents were farmers. My dad's a manufacturer. My aunts and uncles were in the trades. Like, this is what you do to make a living, right? I mean, yeah, sure. I understood there was lawyers and accountants, but it's just like there was so much pride in everyone around me. And so I think for me, the shocking reality of most of the world and most people in my generation as a geriatric millennial, I guess is where I sit. We're like, I love that word, right? Geriatric millennial. And I just turned 40. So I'm feeling middle-aged. I mean, it's coming together. I know. But his reality was that this was a real problem. And there's a problem for me hiring installers for clean rooms, manufacturing guys. I continue to see, labor rates continue to go up. And so, again, although it was a bit naive, I think the thought initially goes, gosh, if I could see what a young guy sees in the field, like, that's really interesting. Like, I could put an old guy in a chair and he could tell I've been learning from old guys my entire life. That's who teach me everything. Right. And they could be in air conditioning and it just makes sense. And that's still a use case that works today, but we learn so much more about that space and what really matters, that is a means to an end. That's part of the story. But that was the real impetus for it and where we started to get really excited about it.
Aaron, as you grew up in the industry, like in the trades, were you always accustomed to technology? You're the CEO of a technology company now. So how did that evolve? Were you like, hey, let's just build an app? Like, how did that evolve?
I am what they would call in the Silicon Valley circles a non-technical founder. I am not a software guy. And so that by far was not my strong suit heading into this. I joke with my current chief product officer and product team, like my scoping a product was like, hey, man, here's a whiteboard and you're going to have a button, right? Everyone's like, uh-huh. And I'm like, that button's going to do this cool thing. And they're like, yeah, it's not how it works. There's like 17 steps before that thing happens. I'm like, cool, you guys will figure it out. And it's kind of funny you asked, like, I come from a manufacturing background where you got parts shipped on time. The end. There was no gray area. Like, if you owed GM 60,000 parts by Friday at 5, GM had to have their parts because they're going to shut a line down if you didn't deliver. And so for me with software, this huge transition was like, hey, yeah, so Aaron, listen, software's gray, right? And we think we can get it done in this way, but you know how it is, and you got to figure things out. And in my mind, I'm manufacturing. I'm like, how do you guys live? Like, how do you operate in a world in which there's gray like this? So it was a very hard transition for me. I'm known to be a bit intense. And I think during those times, I was even more intense with people because I didn't understand how. And of course, I wasn't scoping it right. And of course, I wasn't, doing any of the things you do when you build a product. But fortunately, all that being said, I found people smarter than me, which is a theme. I find people smarter than me. That's the thing that I'm really good at. I'm good at convincing somebody who's a lot smarter than me to go, hey, look what we're doing. Isn't this really cool? Come help me do it. And I was fortunate to be able to do that and find people that could, help us build what XY is today. But plenty of lessons learned along the way, plenty of dumb decisions, for sure.
Well, I share that same journey. I'm not a technical co-founder as well. So that journey into technology was fun and challenging, but so rewarding at the end of the day. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Surprise. I'm not a technical guy either. That's why I didn't start a software company. Jeez.
He's the wisest guy on this call.
Oh, absolutely.
No, I'm kidding. But you know what, to your point, Aaron, it's really interesting, right? Because typically these industries that we talk about have been a little bit behind, right? They've been behind the ages when it comes to technology. It seems like we're one of the last sectors to really adopt the type of technology we're just starting to see today. This is going to be a broad question, so answer it in any facet that you want to. But, what can the technology that we're seeing today that either X or Y is doing, that Repairs is doing, that some of these AI engines are doing, how can this benefit the industry?
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you as a quick aside why I think that's the case. I think generally speaking, if you look at this industry, right, and you say, yeah, they're behind, whatever the case may be. I mean, really, the reality is there's been innovation, there's been technology that's being built in the terms of field service management solutions over the last 25 years, 30 years plus. What's been missing, interestingly missing, is the technician experience and the technician value in that process. So everything was about how do we run the business? Noble cause, important cause, and very important thing to get right. It was shocking to us as we spent time in the field with technicians and JP, who you know well, him and I spent tens of thousands of hours, in the field, kind of trying to become experts on what happens. Their FSM was being left in the van. They weren't even using it. And we were like, hey, wait a second. This whole industry sells expertise on assets. Where is that happening? In the van? Nope. In the office? Nope. On the way to the job site? No. It's happening on the job site. What are they using on the job site? Oh, he's got like one note. He's taking some notes and he's taking some pictures and he's calling a buddy and all this other stuff is happening. This is the heartbeat of the entire industry. I think it represents, if we're honest, a general sentiment about blue collar people. This is the same reason you wrote a book that's been so successful and so incredible. And it's 12 point on. Is that we have a marketing problem. We have an overall social fabric problem with how we view blue collar people. Even when we build software for the industry we serve, the technician's completely bereft of the solution, right? Well, we need to make sure he gets there on time. We need to make sure he does this and make sure he does that and make sure he does that. Sure, those things are important, but it's like, yeah, and the techs all hate it? Of course. You didn't care about them in that process. So are they behind, or did we just, even as an industry, follow the pattern of how we think about these kind of people, which is they're less than. They're just a plumber. It's just an HVAC guy. It's just they'll figure it out. We have them on site and they go do their thing. It's crazy when you think about it. So I think it's about realizing that earning, and this is what's created this reality. The statement of earning technician trust earns market share. That's true because of how things have happened over the last few decades. You have put in the tech in the premium position of power, in large part because you ignored them for so long. So there's way less of them, right? And they have a lot higher demand. And so now they hold the reins. And I think in a lot of cases, it's a good thing because they're the ones doing the real work in the field. So anyway, sorry to give you such long-winded answers on this stuff, but I'm passionate about these topics, and I think there's a twist on this idea of like, oh, it's been underserved. It's been served. It's been served a lot of the wrong thing, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And I can't tell that you're passionate about it. You should probably try to exude that a little bit more if you could. So that's a powerful statement, Aaron. Earning tech trust earns market share. Let's dissect that just a little bit, right? Because I want our listeners to fully and thoroughly understand what you mean by that statement, because it's going to, and this might be bold, but it's going to drive the future, right? This one statement is so powerful. So let's break that up. What do you mean first by technician trust and second by market share?
Yeah. So I think if you look through the lens of every kind of major stakeholder in let's call it mission critical serialized asset field service. So HVAC would fall under there, commercial kitchen would fall under there. When it's like serialized assets, things, when they go down, it's a problem, whatever the case may be. Generators, great. So we work with a commercial road grading company. That's, again, mission critical, right? Serialized assets. When you think about it through the lens in those industries, which are $2 trillion globally, by the way, so not small industry, you've got OEMs that are historically over time have, again, in disrespect for the actual men and women that do these jobs on site, have made it harder to get information, harder to get support, longer wait times, software updates under lock and key, right? Legal departments are unwilling to share installation instructions because of liability, more concerned about covering their butt than they are about, actually getting good solutions out in the field. And so when I think about that technician trust through the OEM's lens, the OEM, and they're doing this now and opening up going, hey, my ability to give them trust in my product, how it's installed, how it's serviced, what parts availability there is, how I support them, will have them going back to the office and telling their boss and their owner, hey, company X is awesome. They got great support. I trust them. I'm building trust with what they're able to give me. I've been on a bunch of like that. And as a result, that company is going to build market share because, Josh, I bet, and I'll ask you this question. I bet if your top 10% of your technicians came in over 2 months and said, Josh, company X has been amazing for all the reasons I just said, what are the chances you would tell them, yeah, thanks a lot, guys, go back to work? Or would you say, great, we'll start buying more of that product.
Yeah, there's zero chance that I would not listen to them. I mean, and I think any other service company that's listening right now, no matter what kind of services you offer, will give you the same exact answer. If our top technicians came to us and said, "Look at this," guess what we do?
Yeah, buy more of it, right? Because you got a skilled trades gap, and you want to make sure you're engaging your technicians and that they feel heard, and they should be anyway. But hey, look, all of a sudden you're looking at the data, Josh, as a business owner, you're going, that guy's doing another 3 jobs a week. That guy's doing another 6. Like, this just makes business sense to me, because the support this OEM or this distributor, right, is giving me the opportunity to grow my business. And so through the OEM distributor lens, that's where I say earning tech trust, right? In ways they have almost actively not in the past, is an opportunity for you to earn market share. And I fully believe the companies that win the next 10 years will be exactly doing that. There's no way they can succeed by making techs wait 4 hours for a service call, by having any significant change to a piece of equipment require some crazy login password software update BS that's insane. Like all the stuff, we all have stories, right? And so that's just gonna kill those brands. And so I think that's it. And then finally, the contractor. I mean, I think it's retention, it's recruiting, it's retention. It's, hey, the consumer experience you have, 21-year-old, is what we've replicated for you as a commercial kitchen service tech. In that we've got instructional content that's TikTok in length, micro learning one step at a time. We've got live video, augmented reality support. We've dialed into your virtual reality training environment. Like, we've got that experience. You're building that trust. You're building that experience to keep those technicians, keep them happy, keep them engaged, keep them trained. And as a result, you're going to earn market share in your particular geography. So that's why I think it extends all the way through the ecosystem.
And, to build off that, Aaron, you're focusing on the technician experience, technology around the technician to improve that process. When you look back at technology in this industry and other trades industries, the whole idea of ERP, legacy systems, field service, all the way up until now, was always the mindset to build the all-in-one solution, where I can build every feature and we're going to build it great. But the reality of that situation is a lot of these technologies spread themselves thin. You can't be a master of everything. And so one of the big themes that I see moving forward for this technician experience, the OEM experience, the office experience, for everyone to be connected and integrated properly with the tools that focus on what they do really well.
Yeah.
XOI does it really well with technology, with technicians, but there's other technologies in the industry that do other things really well. So the ability for legacy systems, cloud-based systems to want to work with other technology tools to streamline that experience is only going to make it stronger. When you look at the OEMs, they're also running on old legacy ERP systems. But all of these OEMs have to dispatch and manage all of their certified service agents in the field. So how, as an OEM, are you expecting your repair company, authorized agents, to actually take in that information, knowing that they have to double, triple, and quadruple enter that work, because those systems do not connect and communicate with each other? So I think that's from another lens, I think something that we're going to see in the future, just more technology companies working together to create a more streamlined experience.
Yeah. Integrations and the connectivity of all this stuff. We've been talking about XOI as kind of the single pane of glass on a job site. The place for great companies like repairs, the Salesforce, the ServiceNow, all the players in this ecosystem, some of which are competitive, some are different markets and verticals and focuses, are very much needed. I think of it in the difference of like a head football coach. Do I need an offensive coordinator and a quarterbacks coach? Yeah, I still need that person. I think for us, we kind of, colloquially explained XOI as that. Like, we're your offensive coordinator / quarterbacks coach. Who's the most important player on the team? Freaking quarterback. Who's the most important player in your team? Technician, right? We're there for them. We need that support, and you need that direct support. You can have the head coach run the rest of the blocking and tackling for the kind of germane stuff. So, and I do think integration is really important. And I think the companies that make that seamless, FSMs have done a bad job of this, and that they've tried to be everything. You're right. And their roadmaps don't allow to support the folks. And instead of saying, you know what, we're not going to be everything, we're going to do this better than anybody else. And then we're going to build an ecosystem that makes that experience seamless and a single pane of glass for anyone who touches it. That is the approach XOI is taking. I'm not telling my customers I'm going to be all the things for you. Even for a technician, we are doing a massive new partnership that'll be announced soon with a vibrational acoustical analysis software, right? I have no intention of building that. But you know what I do want to do? I want to make sure that Josh Solon's technicians, if he wants to use that, have a single experience with that and us. So it doesn't feel like, oh, what's that other app? What's that episodic use case, right? That I have to go get into. And so I think that is an important point as well. And it will really be critical to people moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the topic of integrating, right? And that it is largely fragmented, right? And I'm seeing this in my business too, because, I like to think that I'm one of the early adopters of any technology that really comes available, in this space that can help push my company forward. And I've been accused in the past by my entire team that whenever I try to simplify something, I end up making it more complicated. Why? Because I implement 50 simple solutions, and this is something that I think it's simmering right now, and it's almost time that it all comes together. So on the heels of that, I'm sure that a lot of people are experiencing the same thing in this industry in particular. So what are some of the things, some of the other solutions that you've seen or used that might actually be useful in these industries that people might not know about or might not have implemented?
Yeah, so there's, I would say that a couple things that come to mind in terms of software and technology that I think is really interesting. And these are again some of the recent partnerships we've had, but just kind of thinking in context of what we do too. Interplay, right? So VR training, that kind of thing. I mean, I've known Doug, the CEO there, for a few years, and we were kind of like, we didn't know if we were competitors for a while, and then we're like, wait, we're really complementary. Let's hook up. And it was interesting because, we're not trying to be your NATE certified technician training software, and Doug isn't trying to be your workflow automation kind of smart intelligence platform on site. But we're like, but when a guy gets trained and when a guy, is then on site going, hey, I learned some great stuff in Interplay. Like, where's my reinforcement? How do I kind of capture the proficiency versus currency of this technician on the equipment they work on, and then reapply that back into the e-learning system and keep the learning going? So that's a great example. Company called Discovery Sound Technology that does acoustical analysis. That's a partner of ours. I don't know, Josh, if you've come across those guys or talked to those guys yet, but they're doing some really cool stuff where they have over years and years and years kind of listened to thousands, tens of thousands of different sound signatures. And they can tell you like, hey, this compressor is going to fail in about 6.5 months.
Get out of
here. Because we've listened to so many of these things with their proprietary technology, we know where it's headed. Right. So that's a super interesting one that people should check out. I also think there's some really new good software platforms around technician identification and sourcing that have been coming out too. So companies that are doing really cool stuff around going, hey, techs, we'll help you build some really cool video resumes. Guys like you, Josh, can look at these things and go, yeah, I like this gal. I like this guy. I like why they want a job. I like these things. And so they're really kind of working towards solving the skilled trades gap from a sourcing perspective, which I think is really interesting. So those are some things, handful of things that I think about, kind of e-learning platforms, VR stuff, kind of that acoustical company, and then some of the sourcing companies.
Yeah, I think that's really great for some of these people out here to hear. Right. Because if you're not looking for it just yet, you might not notice it. And so, to have this platform and to hear this kind of stuff, I think is wildly valuable. Ray, I see your thinking cap over there. You got something on the top of your mind, man?
Yeah. So I think even outside of maybe the field service operations, there's a lot of tools that we use in our company that help internal communication. If companies aren't using Slack, I recommend that as a great tool to stay connected with your team for one-off side messages or group messages, just to improve the company culture. We also use Notion. It's more of a documenting platform for us to have all of our SOPs, have all of our onboarding material, just more of a database of material to keep everything in one place. Think of it as more of the modern Google Drive that's more flexible. I think that is something that could be useful for service companies if they haven't already explored that yet. I actually just posted my first blog post and transformed it into a cartoon video. It took me about 2 seconds to build. It's called Steve.ai. I used it today for the first time, and it's a free tool. You can upload 3 videos a month, but it transforms that blog or article that you took, maybe for thought leadership, maybe to your facilities managers or to your operators, how you can just improve that stance on leadership and creating and transforming different content and spreading that across social media. So those are a few of the tools we use. Also Loom, Loom. That's an internal video tool that we use to essentially asynchronize remote work. If we have to, document something, ask someone a question that maybe needs a little more detail, you could just whip up a quick little Loom video and send it right to them. And it's a little more clear and streamlined through that process. So those are some tools outside of field service, but can provide value for your overall operations, your office team, and your technicians in the field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As the service provider on this podcast, I'm just going to go ahead and play devil's advocate here real quick, because all these things are so cool. This is exactly why people accuse me of making things more complicated, right? So as you're listing this stuff, I can hear our listeners saying, well, what the hell, man? How am I supposed to keep track of all this? So we talked just a few minutes ago about technician trust, right? And it's really employee trust, throughout the organization. Yeah. Technicians in the field, number one, because they are on the front lines, right? But then you've got the people in the back office, you've got your salespeople, you've got all these people throughout the organization looking at you, when I say as the leader of your organization, implementing all of these things, say Interplay and Discovery Sound and Loom and Notion and Slack and XOI, and they're sitting here and they're thinking, how are we supposed to navigate all this? So that's the question I'm going to pose to you, Aaron. How are we supposed to navigate all this?
I get to learn so much every day in this business from a lot of really smart people. And I think some of the biggest learnings I've had recently is that it doesn't matter how cool the technology is, if you don't have the right culture and change management process, you're wasting your time. Mm-hmm. You're wasting your time. The technology could literally print gold bars on a daily basis, and it would not get used. And it's just the reality. Anyone who's tried to deploy technology knows that that's true. And so I think those are the pieces I'd recommend people think about first, especially for big things. Maybe not for implementing something that's $7 a month like Slack, right? Pretty simple, straightforward communication platform. And that's a great call out. But I think a massive, a more sophisticated deployment, make sure the change management and the culture is there. The other thing that I would call out in terms of managing the simplicity of it, it's interesting. I've always had to kind of simplify things for myself to understand and believe it. Whenever I think about selling something or selling a vision, it's like, I have to believe it. I'm never a guy that could ever talk about something that I'm in the back of my head. I'm like, yeah, I don't really believe this, but I got to sell something. I got to make $1 or whatever. Like it's this passion is pretty genuine. And so it's interesting. People are like, man, you're so passionate. It's like, I don't even know else to be, right? This is just who I am about this topic. But I boiled down what XOI does in a way that I think is interesting. And that if you look at core reasons companies exist, field service companies, and I say this a lot on podcasts, I'm just reiterating it because I think it's important. It's 2 reasons. It is trust, transparency, reputation, whatever version or word you want to use to drive. That's huge. If you don't have that as a service business, you're dead. The second one is expertise, your team, right? Technicians, office, the entire team. It's the expertise, what they're able to do. That's the 2 foundational pieces. You can't be successful, I don't believe, if you don't have a stronghold on those 2 things. XOI just allows you to take those things to the next level of technology. I'm not trying to pitch XOI. What I'm trying to do is challenge the audience who says this is too much technology to look at those 2 core ethos and say, in this macro environment, in what's happening, around the world, am I enhancing those 2 pieces? Because those are the foundational pieces of which my business is successful. Is this technology allowing me to build trust, transparency, reputation? Is this technology allowing me to drive technical expertise, support, ongoing training, because my people and my reputation are the reason that I'm here. And so I think in terms of simplicity, it's one way to think about it. It's not the only way to think about it. It's just something I've learned over time. And I think it's a way to kind of put it through that filter.
Yeah, that's really important too. And I hope that our listeners are understanding exactly what you just said, right? And essentially you're saying that you got to look within, right? And you've got to put your own company on a foundation to be able to adopt these things, because it is the future, whether we like it or not. These things are going to exist, and the ones that can, and the companies that can properly leverage them, let's call it what it is, those are the companies that are going to win. Right. And because there is value, as long as you can find, as long as, like you said, you can match it to trust, transparency, reputation, expertise, support, training. Does it fulfill those needs? Does it enhance those needs? And if it does, then you're in a better position. So adoption is nothing but a mindset, and the mindset's controlled by your culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Ray,
to build off that, the adoption element is also somewhat forcing the service industry to adopt these tools as well. When you look at, let's say, the flip side of maybe facilities, food service, there's been over $12 billion deployed in venture capital for all these new technologies over the last 5 to 10 years. And so when you look at these restaurateurs, these hospitals, these K through 12 facilities that are using software to manage their business operations, all that has to be communicated with the service side. Now, the issue that's going on right now is the service side is getting left behind, or might I say behind the burner, with technology. And so there you go. And so for us, as technology executives on the service side of the equation, it's really important for us to strive to put these service providers in a better spot for the future. Otherwise, it's going to create more logistical nightmares behind the scenes for them as the operators continue to move forward with technology. So I think that's also another element of just trying to keep up with the other side of the equation that's already way farther ahead.
Mm-hmm.
You got a question on the heels of that?
He didn't need to. That was gold. He didn't need a question. He just laid it out.
He did, man. That's why I was wondering. I'm like, holy crap.
and that also goes to the dealers, the manufacturers, the reps, right? These are all different elements on the outskirts of service. Parts distributors, that's another key element. Why aren't repair companies better connected with parts distributors? That's one of the biggest ways that parts are back ordered. Inventory levels are sustained. First-time fixes are super important. So there's all these different elements, not even just on the operator side, that really just live on the outskirts, but are so siloed in their own different sectors. But yet everybody works together, but no one's actually connected together. And so that's where I think we can find opportunity for the future with XOI, with repairs, and even with Josh implementing different technologies to streamline his operations. So I think that's a big push that we're really passionate about at repairs to strive for the future.
Yeah. You hear that? Even with Josh, man, it'll make me blush. No, that's great. And you know what? That's a perfect setup for one of the final questions that we have, right? Which is, we talk about what's going on now. We listed a bunch of software that can help service companies out there. We talked a lot about XOI and what you do, but what does the future look like, and how fast is it going to get here? I mean, what ideally is 5-10 years? Let's say 5 years from now. What does it look like from a technology standpoint in this industry?
I'll take a swing at it. I think it's hard not to see a future in which we continue to move towards self-serve diagnostic platforms. And the reason I say that is if I think about the two biggest problems facing our industry, it's really the skilled trades and the supply chain right now. Skilled trades getting worse. Supply chain could clean up, in the next couple of years, but it's a nightmare for business owners. And so what do I have? I have the job site in the mix of that. I've got the human being and the machine, and the connectivity between those two things. And all the things we're talking about, all the stakeholders that exist in the ecosystem, comes down to the human being and the machine. And so I believe the future is, and I love this, that Chat GPT has gotten so much like craze because it's interesting because you go, gosh, that's the solution, right? Eventually, right? There's some sort, whether it's OpenAI or someone else that gosh, the tech on site just has a full interaction. Like what's available? Where are the parts? Where is it at? What's the cross-reference part? What's the universal part? Show me how to put it in. How do I affect this thing? Like, you think about all these cost centers or call centers. You think about all the costs attributed to all these things. I mean, that is absolutely the future. Of course, that's with our blinders on because we think a lot about the job site, but I think that's where the innovation is going to be. I think the people that are able to capture that data set, they're able to learn from that data set, and again, earn that trust of the technician, then the whole game changes, right? Because once that's mature, now the competitive nuances of how businesses compete change. It changes. It's more about data. I think I could go on about future possibilities, but I think that's the next big horizon.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. On a little bit of a sidebar, but not really. Did you guys see my last post about Chat GPT? No. Okay, so on LinkedIn, I think I did one on TikTok too. But I did this whole speech on the skilled trades, right? Why the skilled trades are important and why it's a great career. Just like a 60-second inspirational speech. And at the end, I revealed that it was actually Chat GPT that wrote it. It wasn't me. And
that's great.
So I used it as a platform, right, to say, hey, this technology is a little bit closer than we think.
Yeah.
So
can you imagine all these college kids that are having ChatGPT write their 10-page papers? I mean, when I was 19, I would have been all over that.
Oh, are you kidding me? Are you kidding? Absolutely.
It's actually pretty funny. There's technologies that are being built to flag that, but then there's other technologies being built to rewrite that and re-AI that. So there's a constant back and forth.
I would offer that if Chat GPT can write it, if any AI can write it, should we be teaching it? Right? Does it change what we teach our kids? Because we go, look, like remember when they used to say back in the day, man, what are you going to do? Carry a calculator in your pocket every day?
Yeah.
Yep. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I think the reality of like, do you guys get taught cursive when you're kids? It's another great example too.
Yep.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're signing your name, but like, you know how much time we spent trying to figure out cursive? This isn't a thing anymore.
I'm going to start writing in cursive just out of protest now.
We should start, right? We should bring it back. So let's just start writing everything in cursive.
Let's do that, because then when they find the documents in 150 years, right, they're going to be like, holy cow, look at this pretty writing. Everything's going to be typed by the time they find it. So
that's it.
No,
so anyway, I think that's interesting stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Really good. Anyway, let's move to close. Ray, did I miss anything? Is there any other questions you want to ask?
No, that was fun. That was a great first kickoff to Behind the Burner. And what better way to do it than talk about field service technology executives and just learning from each other. That's what it's all about here, and to provide knowledge for the industry. So no, I'm super excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Aaron, thank you so much, man. I know you're a busy guy. I appreciate you spending the time talking with us and our audience, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.